Hello and welcome to FTB Sports. This is the Tottenham Hotspur prediction or preview show, should I say, for the game Zagreb versus Spurs in round 16 of the UEL, which kicks off tomorrow night at 5:55. And I am joined by my resident guests, Darius and Mike. And we have in the house our super special guest, RUEL FOX, ex-Norwich, ex-Newcastle, ex-Tottenham and West Brom, 395 senior appearances, 49 goals, former manager of Witton United, former England B and Montserrat International, 106 caps for Spurs, 13 goals between 1995 and 2000. Welcome, Mr. RUEL FOX.
How you doing, guys? You all right?
Not bad, not bad.
Yeah. That's like the Rock.
Nice introduction, wasn't it? I was ready to walk off. That's enough of me. I was ready to finish. The show's done.
The show's over. But we just started. But welcome and thank you very much for appearing on the show. And I guess we'll get into this, really. Let's ask you a few questions and then we'll get into some comments and we'll get into the show itself. So, RUEL, I don't know if you want to be able to tell the viewers what you've been up to since your playing days and managerial days have finished. What's been going on for you?
Well, when I stopped playing football, I had a sabbatical, like they say. I relaxed for a few years, got bored, had a restaurant for a little while, got bored of that, got into football, started doing a bit of coaching. I was quite lucky. I ended up coaching for my motherland, Montserrat, which is where my mum was from. So I done that for 2 or 3 years, which is really good for me and really exciting. And then when I came back to England, I decided to get back into fitness, and since then I've been running my own fitness and boot camps.
That's fantastic. It's really good. So you're keeping fit. Are you playing football at all anymore, or you're just into the fitness?
No. I started off doing charity games, then it got smaller to 7-a-side games. Then I was playing at goals, and no. I could do a good 10-minute appearance, and that's probably about it. I'm a fit guy, but then I think it's the sharpness and stuff ain't there no more. But I can run. I keep fit, obviously, because I run my own boot camp, so I'm fit in that aspect. But I think the football side of it's never going to happen again.
Oh no! As I said, I finished playing a long time ago. Not obviously at your level, but even now, to think about playing 10 minutes of football, the twisting, the turning, all that sort of stuff. I know I'd be injured before I'd even started. So hamstrings, everything. There's no chance.
Get injured in the warm-ups.
Exactly. That's exactly what happens. Warm up and then I'm done. Well, let's get into talking about Spurs. Obviously, you've appeared for Spurs between 1995 and 2000. Do you follow Spurs, or what's your team that you follow?
To be fair, when I was younger, I followed Man United.
Okay.
Then it went over to West Bromwich Albion. I think I was more attracted to the black players there. There was obviously Laurie Cunningham and Cyril Regis, who's one of my idols, was there. Brendan Batson, Remy Moses. So I was kind of in awe of them sort of players, because when I was young, there wasn't a lot of black players, around playing football in teams. And as I got older, I think then came along. You had Mark Walters, John Barnes, Ian Wright. All these players, and I think you chop and change between them. But the one what inspired me to play football was when I was a Man United fan. I used to like Steve Popple because he was a winger, so I used to like watching him. And then it progressed onto Mark Walters. I used to like Mark Walters, and then obviously John Barnes. So I've always liked teams that got excited players in. So West Brom was an attraction for me at Man United when I was younger.
As long as you didn't say Arsenal, that's all that matters. That's all that matters.
I mentioned Righty. You missed it.
You can mention Righty. I like Righty. I've got no problem.
Everyone likes Righty.
Everybody likes Righty.
Yeah. As long as you don't mention the team, you can mention him, but not the team.
You can't mention anything about him. What do you think of Spurs under Jose currently?
It's a bit of a love-hate thing. I mean, sometimes I can watch them and I can see there's something there. I think the players, he's got the players. I think sometimes we look at the team and you wonder why they're a bit more consistent. I think they were in a bit of a false position when they were top of the league, and he cleverly plays it down all the time. But I think deep down he probably thought that they were going to stay in that top 4 because they've got the players, they've got the equipment, they've got the players to do it. But I just feel that maybe the chopping and changing of the players, especially at the back. They're a bit inconsistent at the back because I think going forward, he's got almost too many options at times. But I feel that, you look at the team now, everyone's been crying out for Bale. We saw a sample of it the last couple of games where we've finally had Son, Bale, and Kane up front. And then for some strange reason, he makes a few chops and changes again. He seems to be making decisions that's confusing a lot of people. Obviously, we don't know what's going on in the training ground. I think a lot of managers in today's type of games, they only pick players on their merit of what they're doing in training.
Right.
So, you hear stories about Dele Alli not being the best trainer. So it means a lot to these managers. But, I've played with players who were so lazy in training, but they'll go. I play with Andy Cole. He could barely jog in training, but he'll score goals every week when I was at Newcastle.
Crazy.
Some people just ain't the best trainers. David Ginola wasn't the best trainer, but he on the Saturday he knew how to switch it on. But I think some managers take that to heart a little bit. They want to. You've got these targets they like to hit in training where your energy levels got to be so high before you play a game on a Saturday. So I feel that what he's done with the team has been good so far this season. You still feel a little bit frustrated that there's some games that they probably maybe because of team selection or maybe just they just haven't played well.
Yeah. Well, saying I'm not playing well, I guess we have to get into the Zagreb thing now. And given the performance at the weekend, which we don't want to talk too much about, we're 2-0 up currently going into this second leg. I guess I'm going to start with Mike. How do you think Spurs are going to approach this game tomorrow night?
This is tricky. I mean, you hope that with the response, you'd hope you get a good response given the awful performance we had on Sunday, and I think a good performance is the only sort of the only thing that they can give the fans. I think we've got Aston Villa at the weekend, so my only concern is what players he's going to play tomorrow. Given that we've got Villa, which is a tough game for us at the weekend, I hear noises that Kane's going to start, which, given what's happened to Son on Sunday, you just wonder. It does. It's just a question as to, is it too many games? Do they need a break? I mean, given the attacking options we've got up front, it might be a slight blessing for Son that he gets a bit of a break, but I'm sure Kane could probably do with one as well. So it's a difficult one. Hopefully it'll be a positive attitude, and Spurs will get the job done and give us a sort of a professional performance, and hopefully we can take that into the weekend's game as well.
Cool. Darius, how do you see the game going against Zagreb, given the fact that we're 2-0 up?
I think, judging by what he said and what the social media has been saying, it looks like Harry Kane is going to start. So for me, I think Jose is probably going to want to score a goal or two in the first half and kind of shut up shop and shut the game up by 45, and then at least in the second half he can make his substitutions. People can come off. Obviously Kane will probably be the first one to come off out of the main players, but I just think that it shouldn't be a game that we really should be thinking about losing. I think it should be a game that we can put to bed, like I said, in the first 20-30 minutes, and then we shouldn't even have to think about being in a situation where we're losing. So I just want to see players that don't necessarily need to play the full 90 not playing. So for example, I wouldn't start Kane. I would put Kane on if we got into a crisis. I wouldn't start the players strong. I'll see how we call it our second string team, but I still think we're good enough. I'd put players that maybe don't start on. Let's see if they can keep 45 clean sheet, because at the end of the day, if we don't concede, we win the game, and we can concede one and still win the game. So
exactly,
it's defensive responsibility for me. If the defense fix up and they play well in that first 45, it shouldn't really need any more reinforcements, but I think it would do the opposite. I think he'll try and finish the game off and then bring players off.
Would you play Toby tomorrow?
Yes, I would.
Let's see, because I've got the predicted teams, and I want to ask Rule a question. Just, if you were manager of this team now, how would you go about this second leg?
Because of the circumstances after the weekend, you kind of, I don't know. You want to win the game. like we said, we want to play our best team, get the players off the pitch, and finish it with your second string. But because of the performance at the weekend, I think there's a lot of players who've got a point to prove. So he might be a bit nervous because if they start the game like they played on Monday, if they score an early goal against us and we got a weaker team out there, then everyone's going to say, well, why don't you play your stronger team? So I'm in the agreement of let's just play your strongest team. Play your strongest team. But if we do play the way we're supposed to play, we get 2 or 3 goals up, then you can take these players off. I think it's a massive gamble because the players' confidence have been knocked after the weekend. If they were going into it after having a great result the weekend, then you probably could take a slight gamble. But, it's an away game and you just don't know. You just don't know, do you? I would go along the way of just playing the strongest team first.
You see, I'm not disagreeing with that completely, but there's a couple of things in there. We kind of did that. Obviously, we had to do that in a North London derby, but not even 20 minutes in, Son came off. Son had been overplayed. He'd been playing nearly every game. My fear is that if we start Harry Kane again, and I do agree, we need to be winning this game. I don't think a draw is good enough. I think we need to win to make a statement, but there's always that risk. Harry Kane for the last 3 seasons has always had some injury around about, this sort of time as well, or even not before. And I just kind of get that feeling that he's going to want to prove a point. We didn't win a game on Sunday, sorry, and it could go wrong.
I think the situation that we're in at the moment, I think, like we said, the amount of games that players are playing at the moment and the high intensity that got to play with, it's inevitable that someone's going to get injured. You either have a lucky season and you go through it and players don't get injured, but there's history of players like your Kanes that who do regularly get injured. So, but then because of the situation with Son being out, who's been fantastic this season, so it was only in the early part of the game that he got injured. It's not as if he was playing in the second half and then his muscles got tired. So it showed that it's not just him. There's a lot of players who are probably just physically tired, but it's just the way you approach the games. Sometimes you can feel right, you just make the first one, and like Son did, and it's gone.
Yeah, true, very true. Well, let's look at the previous stats from the game that we played against Zagreb. Obviously, that was a home game. Obviously, in control of the game, possession-wise, 68-32. Shots, again, we came off the back of some good victories against when we played Zagreb last week. 5 shots on target, 6 corners, 10 fouls. They obviously went with an approach, and this is Zagreb. They were quite, I wouldn't say hatchet men, but they were certainly throwing in some tackles. And again, I can see exactly the same approach that they may take. Does that kind of, I know the game's away, but there's no crowd. Does that kind of make you think that Zagreb may approach the game differently? Do you think that they will really go for it in the early part of the game? How do we think that's going to go?
I think they're going to hedge their bets on chances. I don't think they're going to go all out. I don't think it would make sense because I know that they know about our counter-attacking qualities, and they've had a mare recently, like very recently, with their whole manager being arrested and potentially, he is going to jail for 4 years. So I don't really know what the situation in that dressing room is saying at the moment. For me, it's either one of 2 things. They're either completely just done and finished, that news has just finished them, or they'll use that to kind of give themselves a bit of a boost in confidence, and they might want to try and go for it. I think if it was down from, in my opinion, I wouldn't go for it. Like I said, I would try and hold out and see if they can get maybe a penalty or a mistake may happen. And then if they do get that first goal, then I think they'll go all out to get the second goal. I don't think they're going to try and push very intensely for that first goal. So I think we should kind of bring that to them and force them to attack. Because if we go 3 up, then they'll say, "Oh, we've got nothing to lose," then we'll just go. But I think we should kind of force them to make that decision and score early. So we don't really give them any opportunities to kind of get a goal. Because if we make these mistakes like we have had done in the past games, you never know. It could get really, really dicey. Because 2-1,
there lies the problem. Do you know what I mean? I've said on paper it looks well. I mean, we're far better team than they are. And I don't think we have to even play at 100%. I think we could probably beat them playing at 60%. But it's just the inconsistency of something happening at the back. We don't trust them. So
you can't imagine Jose trusts them.
Yeah, there's no trust in there, which makes Jose kind of then start picking maybe a more defensive team. And then sit back for a little while. So if you encourage them, and they might just get a wonder goal out of the blue, then all of a sudden them tactics are out the window. and then you've got all
Yeah,
these nervous players
game,
coming in.
it?
Yeah, like I said, it's a difficult one. It's a difficult one, but you know, no matter if we play our second string, we should be good enough to finish this game off, maybe 2 or 3-0.
100%. I think that first goal, if we get the first goal, I think that's game over. Because with the away goal being 2-0 up, I don't see them scoring 4 goals against us. They score first. It's a completely different game, and that's my concern, is that they may go for it in the early part of the game, get that goal, put us under a lot of pressure, and if they get that goal, then it's going to be nerve jangling, because until we get that away goal, we are in the lap of the gods, really. I want to just play, because obviously we're talking about starting lineups. This is what Jose had to say about Kane starting tomorrow.
If not you, but one of you asks me after, is he going to play tomorrow, or is he going to rest? I answer already. He's going to play. The game is open. It's an important game for us, so he plays tomorrow.
So Jose's already confirmed that Kane's playing tomorrow. It's who now is going to start alongside him. I think we've talked about Kane in terms of, you know, he's the main man in this squad, in the team. Just looking at the previous lineup, this was the previous lineup when we played Zagreb last week. We had Aurier, Sanchez, Dyer, Davis is back 4, Ndombele, Sissoko, Dele in the 10, Lamela, Son, Kane. That's a strong lineup. That's a strong lineup.
Even without Kane, even without Son, sorry, that team should really.
But that was last week's lineup. So, you know, I'm going to flick up what I kind of predicted, and you guys can now pick holes in this as to given what some of the things that have come out of the press conference. This is how I put it. So I've got Aurier, Sanchez, Dyer. Sorry, Lloris in goal, obviously. Well, not obviously. I think he will play Lloris in goal to keep that.
Yes, obviously.
Because Joe Hart, I'm not sure, can be trusted. But then again, sometimes Lloris makes a few makes. But let's not go on to that. Davis at left back. I think he's going to play pretty defensive in midfield. The fact that Højbjerg is out suspended, I think Ndombele may need a rest. So I can see Sissoko and Winks coming out. That will give us possibly a bit more defensive solidity. Lamela from that right side. Bergwijn from the left is what I've put, inverted wingers. Dele in the 10, and Kane obviously up front. Rule, how do you think that team sits with you in terms of a lineup? Is that attacking enough? Is that defensive? I don't know. Is it a good balance?
I think it's a great balance. Like you said, you made a great point. I mean, you don't want to overstretch the team, but at the same time, like I said, with Højbjerg missing out the team, you've got your solid sitting midfield players. And I think when Valley's proved over the weekend, if he can keep his temperament, that he's good enough to start. You know, I mean, Bergwijn's been a bit, again, when he started off getting the team, he doesn't seem to be one of Jose's favourites. He just seems to be using him one week and then probably not using him for a few other games. So confidence-wise, this might be an ideal game for him. And we obviously know what Bale could do. So with the Bale and Kane, not just between them two, I think our attacking options are far better than Zagreb easily.
I agree with that, because like I said, the only change I could have possibly looked at that was maybe Bale starting over someone like Bergwijn, and then you can maybe play Lamela from the other side. I don't know if Bale is going to start tomorrow. I think the fact that he has played a number of games in a row, I can see him maybe resting Bale. But again, as you quite rightly said, there's enough options on the bench to bring on to chase the game if we need to, which I hope we don't.
And that team that you've put up. That team you put up, Shane, I think that's solid. That's a solid team. It's quite a well balanced side, and it makes sense for Bergwijn to come in and play, obviously in place of Son. Bale doesn't need to play. Lamela is more than capable to fill in for Bale and
even Lucas as well.
Well, exactly. And I was going to say, I mean, Dele for Lucas, Dele's more than capable. We all know what he can do in that number 10 role. So I think that's a good balanced team, and that's probably the team I'd be happy with that team if Jose picks it for tomorrow.
Cool. So before we get into the score predictions, obviously I want to go to some comments because we've got quite a few comments coming through. I will make sure there's no trolling going off as we look through them. But we've got a lot of people who obviously are big fans of yours, Rule. So here we go with some of them. So Zakis Forbes, Big Ledge, Rule Fox. I have 2 questions. I think you were the English Thomas Hassler, unappreciated by English mindset, such a baller. What did you base your game on?
Enjoyment, just enjoy myself. I was quite lucky, and when every person I played under, it's almost like they gave me a free roll just to enjoy myself. I enjoyed taking on players. I mean, when I first started playing football, you wouldn't believe it, that I always felt I was a centre midfield player, but I was too short to play there. So when I got to Norwich, they stuck me out on a wing. But I just enjoy playing football. Especially playing out wide, because you get to pit your wits against the left back. So I've had some good left backs I've had battles against, and I've had some enjoyable ones as well.
Cool, excellent. Zach, again, talk to us about Norwich City. How do they produce so many talented players? Any info on Dale Gordon? Give us a scout report on him, please. I thought he was mustard, but you might have a better IQ. So obviously Zach's doing some homework here.
He's Googling, isn't he? He's Googling.
He's proud of himself.
Yeah, I mean, to be brutally honest, I mean, the one simple thing that Norwich had above, especially around the area that I was from, which was Ipswich, they're scouting. They had great scouts who were trolling the Sunday leagues and the amateur leagues, and don't forget, in my time, it was quite fortunate. If you was playing for, say, like your local team, you could write to a football club, and there was 80% chance that they'll give you a trial. Where now it's so much impossible. Do you know what I mean? I mean,
I would love that.
I know. We had Sunday league managers. You had your county, managers representations. So sometimes they were the ones. The scouts would go to these games, and they were the ones who would approach your Sunday league manager. If your team was quite good at getting to finals, you get noticed. So I got noticed playing for my local team at Witton here, and then I got offered trials at Ipswich. I went to Ipswich. They offered me another trials, but in between that, one of the Norwich City scouts was looking at one of our local games here. Told me, he said, "Just come down to Norwich." So I went down to them. Within a day of me training, they signed me. Wow. So it was just the scouting. That's how it is now. Like, you look at nowadays, you've got to go for all the finances. Your family's got to go for all the finances of getting your kids in academies. And no disrespect to the academies. The academies, some are really good, but some put you under false pretenses. You've got a young kid in there, they got all the flashy kit on when they're 9 years old. There's no guarantee, because the percentage, because of the finance, the percentage of players who are going to make it now lessened all the time. So unfortunate for me, at Norwich, they picked up on them sort of players who were getting let go by other clubs. It's almost like a second chance when you're younger. So that's probably why Norwich are probably, even to this day, why they've still got probably one of the best scouting groups around.
Frank, that's good. Well, that's really good to know, because, like I said, these days to get into that sort of, I can't imagine being able to just write a letter and say, "Can I have a trial?" That these days, that's just, it's never happening. It's just unbelievable. That you could think that could have happened 20 odd years ago, whatever it was.
They used to be around. So, like, do you remember everyone's got the 6 weeks holidays? So you used to just write to football clubs, and they used to write back. Sometimes, as long as you had travel expenses. I remember my older brother, he had trials at Southampton and some other clubs, but my mum couldn't afford to send him there. That was the only reason he didn't go. But I was quite lucky. Wow. I had a friend who was playing called Louis Donner, who was playing for Norwich, and he lived directly across the road. So I should just bang on his door all the time and say to him, take me to the train. And it was only because obviously I could get a lift in, because we couldn't afford to go there. But that was how it is. They would write you back to say, I think every football club used to hold a 2-week trial at their club. Yeah. So you'd have like 200 kids turn up, and then all the scouts were there, and then you'll get picked through that. So it was a lot easier to get trials back then.
Wow. Well, I'm going to go through some more comments because we've got quite a few waiting here. Mr. Silver Fox, and he's going to say, "Got to ask Mr. Fox, great name, by the way, obviously. Can you explain the emotions you felt that famous night in Germany against Bayern Munich in the UEFA Cup?"
It was crazy. It was crazy. I think we didn't take, it sounds strange, we never actually took our European campaign that serious, because it was always one of them was, don't forget, we had a great league campaign. So it was a case of, we were just thinking, we're not going to get too far in this. We had a bit of a win bonus. So every round we got in, we was probably getting more bonus than we did majors. So So it was almost like you was going on a bit of a jolly up. We'd go there, you know what I mean? Get some memorabilia. We was thinking about who's tops the SWAT stuff. Before we knew it, we think, do you know what? We're actually not a bad team. we actually got the young. We actually can't thinking, we not got a bad team. But on a serious note, we had some great players. I mean, some of the people who are historians of Tottenham, we had a lot. We used to have this link with Tottenham. We had Mark Bowen from Tottenham. We had Ian Crook from Tottenham. We had back in the day Gary Brooke from Tottenham. John Polster from Tottenham. Ian Culverhouse from Tottenham. We always had a link with getting ex-Tottenham players who probably were good enough to maybe get into the Tottenham team, but because of the wealth of talent they had at Tottenham, so the style of football they played, it helped us. So having them on board and having the hungry young player like myself, Chris Suttons and the stuff in the team, I think we just peaked at the right time. So once we went to that league campaign when we nearly won the league, it was a case of, we just went out every game just going to enjoy it. There was no pressure on us because we were just Norwich City. So wherever we played, whether it be in the league or whether it was at Bayern Munich, and then we obviously had Inter Milan next round, we just approached it the same way. We didn't put pressure on ourselves. We just went, right, let's go enjoy it. If we don't, we swap with one of the other famous players.
Yeah. Wow, it's amazing to think that that's I can't even such a while back, but I guess it's still fresh in your mind because it's a massive occasion. We've got some more comments coming on. This is your appreciation centre from Zach here. Rule is a hero to many of us growing up. Take a bow, broski. You represented. Fully agree with that. Paul Carr. Team selection is key. This is in relation to us, in relation to the Villa game. Agree with Darius.
I think it's dependent on Jack Grealish. I think if Jack Grealish plays, then he'll probably play. I don't know if he'll be fit, but he'll definitely play a stronger squad if Jack Grealish is fit. 'Cause he's not been fit for the past couple of weeks, has he? So I think if Jack Grealish isn't fit, he'll probably not play a stronger squad.
Even if he does play, is he going to be match sharp? Is he going to be at his best? So I don't know. I mean, a 60% Jack Grealish will probably dust Aurier, so I won't be too excited that he's coming back. But no, it's one of those. We should be careful, but still, we've got to think about the game ahead of us. So
Zach again. Zach's been thinking of quite a few things, but I'll ask this one. Did you suffer any discrimination, rejection, your lack of height as a youth coming through the system?
Discrimination-wise, height, like I explained earlier, it was that's probably why I felt, looking back, that's probably why we're kind of 50-50 whether to take me on, because I'd had trials for over, I'd say a month, where other players were getting signed up and they just couldn't make their mind up. But I think the style of play, how Norwich played, probably they looked at it and like you said, they probably thought, we like playing with wingers who are a little bit agile. So maybe that was a reason why Ipswich didn't take me on. But then it was then Norwich had full advantage of it. But that, I mean, if you talk about discrimination that way, then I probably felt that there weren't many small players playing around at the time, because when I first was in the team, there was a lot of headmen about anyway, so you'd get kicked out of the park anyway. So
fantastic. Like, I'm going to try and get through cracks because I want to get onto the score predictions, but we've got so many people wanting to at least put some things out here. This is Paul Carr. True, we are a better team. However, the confidence is my worry. You get the early goal for sure, and I think that will definitely see us win the game. For Jose to pick Kane shows lack of confidence in the team. I'm not sure it shows a lack of confidence. Nah. I think it shows his intent more than anything. I think it shows his intent to want to win this game and win it early. As you were saying, Rule, if he gets that early goal, it's job done. Take Kane off after the first half, and then we can move on to the next round. Solo 7 here. Sorry, go on.
No, I was just going to say, he's obviously not taking them lightly, is he? If he's going to play Kane, he obviously sees them as a threat still. So
it's only 2 goals, isn't it? Like one, like we said, if they get 1 goal, 2-1, and then you've got pressure on that defense, they could score another goal very quickly. So I agree now. Yeah, thinking back it.
So Rule, we've got a load of comments about who is the hardest player you played against, who's the most difficult player. So I'm going to go with Solo's one here. Solo 7. Who was the most difficult defender you played against?
I think difficult and hard come under the same. Stuart Pearce wasn't a nice player to play against.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, he was just intimidating. He was just intimidating. He wasn't one of them. He was like Yak Stamp. He was just huge. He had massive thighs. I was only 5'5", small winger. So for me, I was just getting established in the team then. And he used to just whisper things in your ear, say, "You touch that ball, go see what happens." It was all the back chat then. You know, I played against. Oh God, I probably don't remember. I played Fanny Benali at Southampton and Mark Dennis back in the Millwall days. I think Pat Van der Nijl when he was at Tottenham. You know, all these players, they weren't nice people. You know, they were. But again, that used to man you up. You know, it was to be intimidating, but you know, it's enjoyable as well when you get the better of him. Yeah. But if I talk about regular playing against a left back, I mean, Stuart Pearce is one of the hardest ones, you know, to get on over on.
Jeez. He was a player, but like you said, he was a hard one as well. This is going to be the last one I'm asking you with regards to players. So this one, good question. Who was the best player you played with? And given that you played at them clubs and that had a 16-year career, you've played with some really good players. I'm interested to hear what you say about who your best player was that you played with. Because I've got one in mind, but I'm going to hear what you say.
It's always, I could reel off on players that probably no one really knew of because they weren't fans of. I mean, from when I started off, I had Ian Crook, ex-Tottenham. He was the one who probably laid everything on to me, made my game easy for Norwich. Then I'll go through. I went to Newcastle. I've got Andy Cole. I've got Peter Beardsley. Peter Beardsley's one hell of a player. You know what I mean? We went down the season and Andy Cole scored 40-odd goals. So I was part of the team, so to play with him and be a part of his goals. And then I've gone on. I think I've gone on Tottenham and I played with Teddy Sheringham, who's a different type of player, but a great player.
What about David Ginola?
David.
I thought that's who you was going to say because
no, I mean, again, David was a great player, but if you look around all-round players and what they can bring to the game, and sometimes it's not just about what if they could come play in the season. Don't get me wrong, David was for me at Newcastle and Tottenham, so I know what he's capable of. Do you know what I mean? But when you look around an all-round player, I think David became the player he was when he was unbeatable once he went to Tottenham. But when you talk about longevity, where players are doing it from season to season, and they're consistently doing it, you know, I would say the one that it was Andy Cole or Peter Beardsley. You know, like I said, with David, great player, and even Teddy I played with at a time, but then Teddy left to go to Man United. Yeah. So, you know, the time where Teddy was consistent, he was a class player, but I would say Peter Beardsley for his unselfishness and he helped you out in the games. You know, and also the ability that he had. People keep forgetting the amount of teams he's played for and the career he's had. Yeah. You know, when you look back at them in Liverpool days, he was in that team with the John Barsons and everyone. Yeah. You know, he's an absolute legend. Peter
when you played with that many players, like I said, I guess it is a hard one. But like you said, it's interesting how you maybe see things because, like I said, everybody kind of looks at the names and you look at David Ginola, what he did for us at Spurs, obviously what he did at Newcastle as well. He was, I loved watching him play. He was he was that sort of like player that the arrogance about him. He just kind of exuded it.
He had that Cantona thing about him when he was untouchable. Yeah. You know, and when he wanted to turn it on, he was untouchable. And I think if he's playing in today's sort of game, he'll be phenomenal. Yeah. Phenomenal. The type of systems with the three up front. If you had him, imagine him playing up there with Tottenham now. You know, he'd be phenomenal. And
Rule, don't do this. Don't do this. It's not fair now, man. We can't do this, man.
Oh. But you're right. I mean, like you said, I could easily pick that. I mean, it's so difficult because I've been so fortunate that I've played with some classy players. You know, for all types of different reasons. Yeah.
100%. And I loved you as a tricky winger. Them feet, man, it's a twinkle toes, as they say. So love that. Let's get into this last part of the show. And this is the interesting part. I'm going to leave you till last on this one, Rule. And we all like this part. This is our favourite part. Score prediction, lads. So, Don, at the top, Mr. Mike, Hotspur Hustler. Mate, rubbing my hands here to listen to this one. Got the pen as well, ready to write this one down. What you saying?
My confidence has been knocked after that Arsenal game. Where going into that with the form that we had, I was more than confident. My chest was out there, and I thought we were going to win comfortably. And those opposition will say, they've dented my confidence a little bit. So I'm going to go with a sensible 2-0 Tottenham.
Okay. Oh, I think you were going to say something else then, but 2-0. Yeah. Okay, fair enough. Darius, how do you see this one panning out?
This is probably the hardest prediction I've had to make, because I genuinely don't know how this game's going to go. I'm going to stick with my my theory that Spurs will never keep a clean sheet. So I'm not going to predict a clean sheet. I do think we're going to concede. And I think the reason that we'll concede will be because we're being a little bit too passive. And I think once we concede, it will kind of jolt the players into energy and into that sort of mentality that, okay, we can actually still lose this game. So I'm going to go 2-1, but I think it could be 3-1 because I think Zagreb might push. So I'm going to go 2-1 to be safe. But yeah, I don't think we're gonna keep a clean sheet. It's Spurs. I can't predict clean sheets.
Darius 3K 2-1. Okay, before I come to you, Mr. Fox, I'm gonna get my little thing in. Right. So if it was, and I think I've mentioned this before, if we were playing in Croatia and it was crowds there, that's not a nice place to go. Different. That would be a horrible place to go.
Game. Yeah.
Different game. If it's just about football, we are the better team. We have the players to be able to take the game too, and we can play in various different ways. I hope it's not a defensive performance from Spurs, although I don't know what the start 11 is going to be, and that will be the intriguing thing once that happens. Anyway, stop my waffling. I see Spurs winning the game, and it's very dependent on getting that early goal. If we get that goal early doors, it's done, and then we can go on and maybe enjoy it a little bit more. If they score first, it's going to be a little bit hairy. But I'm probably going to go. I think I'm going to go with you, Mike. I'm getting 2-0 on that one. I think Zagreb, although they'll huff and puff and they'll be at home because the crowd's not there. I just think that the footballing ability of Spurs.
They haven't really got much about them, have they? Let's be honest.
They were hatchet. They were hatchet, man. I watched that game back. What they were doing to end on belly was they were catching him with some real tackles. So
that's what they're going to do.
I'm getting 2-0. Okay, special guest time, Mr. Fox. I'm calling you Mr. Fox because that's what we have to call you. What's your thoughts?
I've changed my mind twice now. Hearing you guys. Do you know what? I even though I think they go into the I can't see them scoring. I can't see Zagreb scoring. I'm going to go with a confident 3-0.
Wow, say that with your chest. Say that with your chest.
I like it. I like it.
Even after the weekend, you're still getting 3-0.
I saw the first leg. And I didn't see nothing they should be scared of. And I think if they get a fast start, which I think mentally they'll do anyway, I think if Daly's in, he's going to be hungry to score a goal. I think, if Bale's in, he's going to be hungry to score a goal because of after the weekend. Same with Kane. They've got to prove a point. So anytime it goes up there, I think they've got a great chance. And I can't, like you said, unless it's a massive doubt, I can't see them scoring. Unless we throw it in the net, which we could do. But I'm sick to my 3-0.
I'm not going to say we're not going to do that. I'm definitely not going to say we're not going to do that at this rate.
This is a game This is a game where I think we could do with you and David playing in it, but both of you obviously not going to be playing in it. So I am not as confident as that, but I'm still going to go for the win. I always got to go. We've got a few more comments here before we go. So One Touch TV, Jose in. He's saying, how do you rate Spurs' current season? Well, I think we touched on that at the beginning.
Yeah.
One Touch TV. Here we go. These are the funny people here. So basically, the best players you played with weren't Spurs players, but you gave an honourable mention to Teddy because you were surrounded by Spurs fans. Well played. One Touch TV. He was a previous guest of ours, so he's beginning to get cheeky. I like that though. That's kind of funny. We saw your chest, Mike. He saw your chest out, laugh out loud.
He's a funny guy, isn't he?
He's a funny guy. Mr. Silvercott, Mike was super confident. See, they're trying you, Mike. They're going for you.
There was no reason why I shouldn't have been confident. We had form. We should have won that.
I think this is probably a bit too early to talk about who do you want in the next round. I just want to get through to the next round, if I'm honest with you. Yeah. Basically, because AC Milan and Man United are playing, one of them two is going to go, and I want to see one of them two go because they've got pedigree.
One thing is, it's going to be exciting with the teams that are left in there. It's going to be quite exciting, isn't it? That's the thing about it. You don't want to get drawn against another Premiership team, but there's some decent teams still left in there,
Yeah, for real. Not this
definitely.
So Imran here says, great to see Mr. Fox. I remember watching him flying down the wing for the mighty Spurs. Come on, you Spurs. See, people remember that. I remember that. Flying down the wing. Imran saying 0-3 to Spurs. I'm hoping that means 0-3 because obviously it's at Zagreb. And Zakis just comes back in just to show more appreciation. Great show. So, gentlemen, thank you very much. Mr. Ruel Fox, thank you very much for appearing.
It's been a pleasure, guys. It's been a pleasure.
Oh, thank you very much. It's absolute pleasure to have you on the show. We would hope, if we can, see you again at some point. Obviously, we know how busy you are, but these things we got to try. You know what I mean? So,
most definitely.
Before we go, like, subscribe, share, comment. We want to try and get as many viewers as we can. Hit that subscribe button so we can get everybody to know all about what's going on and seeing other guests such as Mr. Ruel Fox. It's been a pleasure. It's been a real pleasure. And I think we should be into the round of 8. I can't see us not. It would be a real shot.
Touch wood.
Touch all the wood we've got. Touch everything.
All the wood you got. Touch everything. We'll be through. Don't worry. Touch
I've got my eyes on Arsenal as well. I've got my eyes on Arsenal now.
I want them
before the final. I want them before the final.
No, I don't want them man at all, to be honest. I don't want them. Not after they. Can you imagine? Can you imagine? Anyway, let's not talk about that. Let's end this on a positive note. Gentlemen, Mike, Darius, Mr. Ruel Fox, thank you very much, and we'll see you again soon.
Thanks, guys. Take it easy.